before we get into spoilers, I'm really surprised at how, like, I thought I was going to enjoy this, but I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought.
Okay.
And is, I would dare say, the best screen adaptation of a video game ever.
That is a low bar to clear.
It is. When you consider that, what do they have, like the early 90s version of Mario Brothers?
The Mortal Kombat movies.
Yes. They did a Street Fighter movie.
That movie is so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme playing an American character with this incredibly thick European accent.
You know, I remember liking that a lot when I was a kid. Like, I had Street Fighter toys. Like, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's a stupid movie that kids would love.
So yeah, the bar isn't very high.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's HBO, and the thing you can count on from HBO is it being fucking quality. Yeah. Like at least for now, like they do, you know, the whole prestige TV thing. So I have not played the game yet. I think as soon as I do this,
it's actually
it's right there.
Counter right there.
I think that after I do this Fallen Order thing, I'll get into it because I've been like I've watched gameplay of both games from start to finish, so I know what happens, and I'm excited. The story is so good. I think that's why everyone's really excited about it. Have you played it or seen any of it?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I know in broad strokes what happens.
Okay, yeah, I won't mention anything that ends up happening or anything. There's one thing I might spoil a little bit, but it was out of a DLC thing. So, which, by the way, starting now, I'm going to start saying shit that happens in the show. If you don't want it spoiled, you can pause this whenever you're watching it, go back, watch the show, and then come back. And if I miss any details, put in the comments.
Can I get some broad strokes impressions before you get into the deep spoilers?
I think it's really funny that Pedro Pascal is in another samurai and the lone wolf situation, but he does it real fucking well. Yeah. Pedro Pascal is a brilliant actor.
Does a very convincing Southern accent.
Yes, yeah, I know. I agree. The actor, I've seen some. I think people are 50-50 on the girl that plays Ellie. Mm-hmm. I love her. I think she's great. And I think that she does a good version of the character without trying to impersonate the video game.
She's very good at being a snarky teenager.
That character that's like her whole thing. Mm-hmm. And
like maybe it's a slightly different snarky teenager than appeared in the games, but it's convincing for what the character is supposed to be.
She's got a bite, like, well,
phrasing.
Yeah. But she's not, she's got a sharp tongue is what I'm saying. Yes. Right. And I thought the opening title credit, the title sequence was kind of cool. HBO has this thing about maps and there's not like blood squirting out of it like in House of the Dragon. And I can't remember who did the music for it. But
it was like half the guy who did the music for the original game and half someone else. I don't remember.
Yeah, which was there are a lot of good hints about some character things in the music, like Joel being a guitar player and everything. So it's I think everything about it so far has me hooked. I'm really excited for the next one, which I can't say about Bad Batch. Like I watch it when it comes out, but I'm not like jonesing for it, or like House of the Dragon or Andor or anything like that.
So I think the show is absolutely gorgeous. The cinematography is incredible. Every single shot is a work of art.
They do some shot for shot from the game too, and it really works. Yeah. I think it's one of the reasons that people like the game so much is that the parts that go full blown storytelling with the cinematography and everything, like in the game, is really good. I think that's why people like it so much. And the story, it's a zombie outbreak story, but that's not what it is. It's not like the walk.
Well, zombie stories are never about the zombies. They're about humans.
I think that this does a better job of that. Because I've seen some of The Walking Dead, and look, I know there are people out there that fucking love it. I could not get into it, and this had me after the first episode. So
I think it's also extremely well acted. The cast is fantastic, top to bottom. Even the fucking bit characters who have like 2 lines are very well done. The zombies themselves disturb me deeply. Like, it's just the right sort of body horror that gets me like,
it's like that in the game too, and they're real fucking, and the fact that it's based loosely on real science,
quasi scientific.
It's like this fungus exists.
Yeah. So why don't we just start with the very the very first prologue scene of the show.
So we start
cold open on this fucking 60s TV show.
We got this early 60s conversation happening, which one of the guys is the brother from The Mummy, which I haven't seen him in anything in a really long time, and I was like, oh God, your face looks real fucking familiar.
The fucking DiCaprio on the couch.
Right.
Pointing.
Yeah. So they're doing like a healthy dose of foreshadowing, right? And they're talking about they're like, one day maybe a global
bacteria,
pandemic.
viruses, that ain't shit.
Yeah.
Fucking fungus.
Yeah. And
fungus will fuck us up.
The second he says global pandemic, everyone's butt clenches because we're like, oh God, we know about that. So they're talking about how there's there's these kinds of fungi that take over the motor functions of its host just so it can spread its spores and shit. And this is a real fungus that exists. It mostly affects bugs,
ants specifically. I believe in the Amazon.
Right. And it takes over their motor functions, makes them do real erratic, weird shit, and then it turns it into a fucking spore factory. Right. And so the dude's like, let me just say, if that ever happens in
possibly the fungus can't live in human bodies because it can't exist in an environment that's over 94 degrees,
right? But
it might evolve because evolution is real,
and you know what would make it evolve is if it started
the world got warmer.
But that'll never happen.
No way.
And we're just like, oh God. So I thought, like, that first conversation, I was like, all right, this is so cool.
Got it.
So we meet Joel and Sarah, and we're not going to do like scene by scene. Right? I'm trying to get some broad strokes here.
It's Joel's birthday. Sarah,
he's 36, I think. They changed the timeline of this a little bit. In the game, it happened. There's a 10-year difference. They changed the timeline so that present day with Joel is 2023. Okay, which matches the year they're winning. So they changed it around. So
so you see some retro cell phones, which is fun.
Well, there's a bunch of hold on. So there's stuff happening, weird shit happening around the world. Like there's a newspaper talking about some weird shit,
like Jakarta,
right? Which is I had to look it up. It's in Indonesia.
I love Indonesia.
There are so many fucking period references. There's George W. Bush on the fucking wall of the school. There's Joel talking about how he's on Atkins, and the Desert Storm sticker. Everyone was fucking talking about Desert Storm back then, which is a conflict, by the way, that like apparently everyone in my family and from that generation had some kind of part in. So Joel's like, they never talk about Sarah is his daughter's name, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. They never talk about her mom. It's not one of those things where like, oh, since your mom died, blah 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 blah. Like they're doing the best they can. They're as functional as they can be. Joel is like they're all in Texas, so he's a fucking Texan, but he's a softie. Like he loves his daughter, and she's got a smart fucking mouth on her, but she's really smart. So like it doesn't matter. They meet Uncle Tommy, who is another character from the game. And they're both like going to go do this construction gig, and they got to do a 12-hour shift. It's Joel's birthday.
Contractors or whatever.
Yeah. So Sarah ends up stealing money to get a watch that he has that's broken fixed. And there's a shot at school where like there's a real like weird shit happening. Like there's a person with a bracelet that's like, or I guess it's like 2002 or 2003. So they have their big trapper keeper. Yeah. And they're like drawing the 3-dimensional S thing,
the cool S.
Yeah, right.
But like she goes to the watch store to get this thing fixed, and like the watch shop owner's wife comes out and starts talking to him in this foreign language, saying we need to fucking close, which shit's going down.
You don't need the translation. You know, she's like, get this bitch out of here. we got to close.
Because like a bunch of police cars and ambulances go by, and you know, she gets the watch and goes home.
Yeah, and she meets an old lady next door, and steals a DVD, and
borrows a DVD, and there's this
brilliant fucking shot where she is like, first of all, don't ever fucking make cookies with raisins in them. Just don't fucking do that. But she's talking to somebody, but in the background, out of focus.
Yeah, she's going through the
DVDs, right? And like have you seen It Chapter 2?
No.
There's this great fucking scene of this old lady doing weird shit in the back, like really grotesque movements and like being weird and completely butt-ass naked and shit. It was so much like that, where like you see her mouth moving and she's like, yeah, it's so fucking weird. So She gives him the watch. They watch the DVD. She falls asleep. Tommy gets arrested.
Yes.
Because he beats the shit out of someone who's probably a zombie now. She wakes up. Joel's not there because
he goes busting Tommy out of jail.
And there's some shit happening outside. Yes. There are sirens, there are helicopters, shit's exploding.
The neighbor's dog comes over and she's going to take him back and looks inside, and the fucking old lady is like zombie attacking the guy and his wife.
Yeah. The one guy, by the way, that acting performance is really convincing, where he's just sitting there and he doesn't even say anything. He's just looking over at her like, what the fuck?
Well, he's also probably hallucinating, because that was what, like they were saying, the cordyceps makes you hallucinate.
Right. So she gets the fuck out, and the old lady chases her, and just in time for Daddy Joel to come in and just fucking beat this bitch across the face with a big wrench, right? And I'm gonna note her reaction, because it's a lot different than in other characters later on. But Sarah's like really stunned by it, and she just can't move, and she's crying and shit. So they try to escape. And this is where we get shot for shot from the game, where they pass a burning farm, they pass a family whose car is broken down, and Joel is like, "Fuck no, we're not stopping."
Highways blocked up. They're fucking quarantined from all directions.
Right. Yes. So they try to drive through this town, and there's this great bit of cinematography where you're watching the characters from the front, and you see this plane in the background. But if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. And it's like flying, and like kind of goes up a little bit, and you're like, that bitch is gonna crash, and it just keeps getting closer and closer. And there's this great fucking plane crash. The effects are great. Giant explosion knocks the truck over. Tommy and Joel get separated. Joel takes Sarah. They're gonna meet up the river.
Yeah, she broke her ankle, so he has to carry her. And right before they get to where they're meeting Tommy, there's it's either a National Guardsman or someone from the army or something who clearly gets a kill order. He's like, "Hey, I found these fucking people," and the guy on the other end is like, "Fucking kill them." And Joel tries to shield her and run away, and I think they both get shot. I think Joel gets shot as well. Yes.
And Sarah,
Tommy kills soldier.
Right. Which he kills a lot of people in the game, by the way. And Sarah dies. Yeah. And it's fucking heartbreaking. It's just like, and like, if you've never seen the game before, this could be the main character, because it sticks on her a lot throughout the whole thing. And there's this, it's very Game of Thrones. If you don't know what's coming, it's like, oh, well, she's fucking dead, I guess.
The whole sequence is horrifying.
Yeah.
It is harrowing and disturbing.
You know, the thing that really got me was that they didn't have to show her dying. They had a reaction from Tommy, who, like, Joel's trying to like get her to get up.
Get her up, we'll get you to the hospital. And Tommy's just like, Joel.
Yeah, like you see him realize that she's dead, and then it pans over to her, and it's just, it really is heartbreaking. So we're gonna do a House of the Dragon thing and flip in the timeline. 20 years later, this poor fucking kid is walking toward Boston, Massachusetts, which is now a fucking military dictatorship run town, run by a like a FEMA like organ. It's like a FEMA kind of a thing called Fedra. And if
I can take him inside of the clinic, and this official is talking to him like, you know, we're just going to run some tests. We got you tied to this chair because we don't want you falling over. We're going to, you know, just prick you in the neck a little bit with this testing thing that shows red.
Yeah, he's clearly positive for the cordyceps.
So she's like, you know, we're gonna get you your favorite food, and you're gonna get some cake and all the toys you want, and they fucking lethally inject.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's one of those. What a job to have.
Yeah.
I just talk about things I would never be able to do. So you meet Joel 20 years later. He looks fucking 20 years older too. And he's taken all the hardest fucking jobs he can get. One of them is dropping dead bodies into fires, right? And
one of the bodies is that
kid. And before, when he had this really emotional reaction to his daughter dying, he carries this dead kid in the same way, just fucking numb. Just no reaction whatsoever, just dumps his body in the fucking fire.
20 years of zombie apocalypse will do that to you.
Right. So there's this whole conflict where his girlfriend / partner gets abducted by an enemy. Everyone
girlfriend / business partner
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want a car battery because Tommy is
he's elsewhere and hasn't been responding to radio calls.
So, and which, like, if I was in a zombie apocalypse and I lost contact with my brother, I'd be like, where the fuck are we driving?
Also, Joel is apparently a drug smuggler, and he's like selling drugs to a soldier in exchange.
Yeah.
And like the soldier is helping set him up with a truck.
How fucking American is it that 20 years into a zombie apocalypse, we're still producing hydrocodone. Yep. We're still producing Vicodin, right? So there's also this whole other thing with a rebellion group called the Fireflies, who found this girl. And you don't really know why they're interested in them. You don't even find out in the entire episode
until the very end.
Yeah. Where like they're kind of studying her at first, and then they've been doing like these acts of terrorism around the town, freedom fighters. And they decide, they're like, you know what, fuck it. We're gonna take this girl.
We're leaving.
We're out. Like this is bullshit. We don't even like it here. Boston sucks, which it does. And everyone's paths collide, and all the Firefly cell gets killed. The battery never worked in the first place.
Fight with the guy who was trying to sell them the car battery.
Yeah.
Joel and his lady show up, and they're like, well, shit, everyone's dead. Firefly leader is like, hey, I got a job for you. You fucking take Ellie to meet our people. Yeah. And they'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah. And the entire Firefly cell is dead, except for like 2 of them. And so they're like, okay, we're done. And so there's a scene where they lay low for a second, and there's he's got this smuggler code on the radio and shit. But
like they have different meanings for 60s, 70s, and 80s songs.
Right.
The 80s song apparently means there's danger out there.
And there's a really cool part where like Ellie kind of proves how cunning she can be, where she like tricks him into like telling her what it meant and everything. Yeah. But night falls, they decide to get out. The Vicodin addict guard catches him, and he's going to arrest him and shit. And Ellie knows that as soon as she gets tested, she's going to show positive. And so she turns around and stabs the dude in the neck. And
stabs him in the leg.
Or not in the neck, right, in the leg, sorry.
And then Joel ends up beating him to death.
Yeah, because he raises his gun, and it looks shot for shot like when Sarah died. And he mauls this fucking guard, beats him to fucking death.
And Ellie's like, okay, I know how this looks. I want you to look at my arm. Yeah. See this zombie bite? It's 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
Which doesn't already be a zombie.
Right, exactly.
So let's just fucking go, and we can talk about it later.
Right. So her response to him beating someone to death was way different than Sarah. Did you notice?
She kind of like peers over his shoulder.
She looks a little excited about it.
She looks a little interested.
Yeah, and there's a weird shot from the trailer in the next episode where she there's this stalker, like one of the early stages, trapped with falling rocks, and she just looks at it with a knife and is like waving the knife around in front of its face. Like, this is a girl from Game of Thrones, by the way, who's fucking great. I didn't realize she could act like it, because if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, Lady Mormont's a fucking beast. Like she's a way different character than this. So I was delighted with how good she was.
Well, psychologically, like Ellie would be like, she was born after the zombie apocalypse. So like this is the world she's known. So she it's conceivable to me that she's familiar with violence.
Right. So last part of the show, they get out of the city.
The radio comes on. It's obviously an 80s song.
Right. So bad news. And there's this fucking great shot straight from the game of these 2 fucking skyscrapers that have just fallen into each other. Someone mentioned that if you go frame by frame, there's a clicker on one of the rooftops watching them, which is like one of the evolutions of the zombie or whatever. So we do have to go.
Yes,
we got to go do our. I'm going to make sure next week we don't talk 20 minutes about a Mando trailer, so we can get the rest of it in. We're going to go play some Battlefront now, so please join us. It'll be a blast. We'll talk more about The Last of Us or whatever you guys want to talk about. So thanks for showing up today. Make sure you share, like the stream. We do this every week, 6 o'clock Central on Wednesdays. Love you guys. Bye.